In this video, I will show you how to replace the SRS Airbag control module in a 4th generation Kia Sportage. This small computer sits deep inside the vehicle, and it's responsible for monitoring impact sensors, detecting crashes, and deploying the airbags at exactly the right moment. The airbag control unit in this vehicle is positioned right in the middle of the cabin under the floor center console, just below the front console tray. Because of this location, you cannot simply reach in and pull it out. To access it, you will have to remove the entire floor center console assembly. Before we begin, remember we are working with the airbag system, and safety is the top priority. So first, disconnect the negative terminal of the battery. Once that's done, we can safely get started. The first step in this process is removing the center console upper cover. But before that cover can come off, you will have to take off the gear knob. To remove the gear knob, you will first have to move the gear shifter into the neutral position. But how do you do that if the engine isn't running? It's actually very simple. Take a flathead screwdriver and pop off this small plastic cap labeled shift lock release right next to the shifter. Once the cap is off, you will see a large white button inside. Press and hold that button, and while doing so, move the shifter into neutral. With the shifter now in neutral, you will notice it sits at a 90-degree angle. That's exactly what we need for the next steps. Next, we need to remove the gear shift boot from the center console. The boot is seated firmly and held down by multiple tight clips. After trying several different approaches, I found that the cleanest and safest method is to insert multiple plastic trim rotows along the side of the boot space. Once they are in place, gently pry upward. You will feel the first set of clips begin to release. Now slowly work your way around the boot until all clips are released and the boot is completely free. With the boot raised, you can now focus on removing the gear knob. Wrap both hands around it firmly. It is important to get a good solid grip because the knob is held on by very strong internal clips. Pull the knob straight upward, applying steady, controlled pressure. Do not twist it or yank it to the side. It is designed to come off vertically only. It may take a moment, but eventually the clips will release and the gear knob will pop off. After removing the gear knob, you can move on to lifting off the center console upper cover. Begin by placing your hands near the back section of the panel right next to the center armrest. This area has the most leverage, making it the easiest place to start. Gently pull upward to release the first set of clips underneath the panel. Once that section loosens, work your way forward along both sides of the console. Lift gradually and evenly, allowing each clip to disengage one at a time. Take your time here. Pulling too hard on one corner can bend the panel or snap a clip. As you move forward, the entire upper cover will begin to lift away. Once you lift the cover, you will notice a wiring harness connected underneath the panel. Before you can set the cover aside, you will have to disconnect this harness. Press down on the locking tab and gently pull the connector straight out. Once the connector is free, you can safely move the upper cover out of the way. Next, we are going to remove the front console tray. This tray is secured by 2 screws located near the front edge. Using a Phillips head screwdriver, loosen and remove both screws. With the screws removed, the tray will still be held in by a few retaining clips. Grab the tray firmly with your hands and pull it straight upward. Once the clips pop free, lift the tray out and remove it from the console. At this point, you can take a quick look at the airbag control unit sitting right under the rear AC duct mounted low in the center of the floor tunnel. This gives you a clear idea of where the module sits and what we will be working toward as we continue removing the rest of the center console. Next, disconnect the electrical connectors behind the front console tray so it can be removed completely. Start with the main wiring connector, pressing the locking tab and pulling it straight out. Then move on to the 2 USB module connectors. Each one has a small release tab. Press the tab and gently unplug the connectors, being careful not to pull on the wires. Once all 3 connectors are disconnected, you can fully remove the front console tray and set it aside. Now look under the dashboard in the footwell area. On each side of the floor center console, one on the driver's side and one on the passenger side, you will see a side cover panel. There is a screw behind each panel that secures the center console, so the panels must come off first. Each panel is held in place by clips only. To remove one, start at the edge of the panel that faces the seats. Slide your fingers behind the bottom edge and gently pull outward. As you pull, you will feel the clips releasing one by one with a light popping sensation. Once the clips are free, slide the panel out of its rear mounting point and remove it completely. Repeat the same process on the opposite side. With both panels removed, we will now have access to the hidden screws behind them. Remove the screws using a Phillips head screwdriver. There are 3 more screws that must be removed before the center console can come out. 2 of them are located at the front of the console just under the AC control switch panel. The third screw is positioned at the top center of the console. Using a Phillips head screwdriver, loosen and remove all 3 screws. Next, disconnect the wiring harness for the rear console. Press down on the locking tab, then gently pull the connector straight out. There are 2 mounting bolts located inside the center console storage compartment. Start by lifting up the armrest to access the storage area. At the bottom, you will see a mat. Use a pick tool or a small flathead screwdriver to lift the mat out of place. Under the mat, you will find the 2 mounting bolts. Using a 10mm socket and ratchet, loosen and remove both the bolts. Once they are out, the rear portion of the center console will be free. At this point, everything securing the floor center console has been removed and it's ready to come out. Place both hands on the rear section of the console and slowly lift it straight upward. As you raise the back, the front section will gradually release from its mounting points. Lift slowly and evenly, keeping an eye underneath to make sure no wiring harness or connectors are getting caught. Once the rear and front are free, carefully remove the console from the vehicle and set it aside in a safe place. Next, we will remove the rear AC duct. It is secured in by 2 10mm nuts. Using a 10mm socket wrench, carefully loosen and remove both nuts. Once the nuts are off, lift the back of the duct slightly and then pull it backward to unmount it from the front console. With the duct removed, you will now have a clear access to the airbag control unit. The airbag control unit is secured by 2 10mm nuts at the back, which are a bit harder to reach, and one 10mm bolt at the front, which is easy to access. Use a 10mm socket wrench to remove the nuts at the back. Before removing the front bolt, you need to disconnect the electrical connectors attached to the airbag control unit. There are 2 connectors and both of them are locked in place. To release the locks, press the small tab on the locking mechanism, then pull it out. As you pull it out, the connector will also slide out slightly. Then grab the connector and pull it straight out of its socket and set it aside. Disconnect the other connector the same way. Then remove the bolt using a 10mm socket wrench. With both the nuts and the bolt removed and the wiring harnesses disconnected, you can safely lift up and remove the airbag control unit. Here is a close-up of the SRS Airbag control unit. You can see the part number printed on the module. Keep in mind the part number for your vehicle could be different, so always verify the correct part number before purchasing or installing a replacement. Now take your replacement airbag control module and carefully position it in the same spot where the old one was mounted. Make sure it sits flat and aligned with the mounting points. Once it's properly positioned, you can reinstall the rear nuts and the front bolt. Tighten them down with a socket wrench or ratchet, but do not over-tighten. Next, reconnect the electrical connectors to the airbag control unit. Take each connector and align it with its socket. Push it straight in until it is fully seated. Then press the lock on the side until you hear or feel a click. Make sure both connectors are fully seated and the locks are engaged before moving on. With the replacement module in place and all connectors secured, the installation is complete. We can now move on to reassembling the center console and all the panels we removed earlier. Take the rear AC duct that you removed earlier and position it back into place. Carefully slide the front of the duct into the front console or HVAC housing. Once the front is properly seated, lower the rear into position and secure it with the 2 10mm nuts. Now it's time to reinstall the floor center console. carefully position the console over its mounting area, making sure all wiring harnesses are clear and nothing gets pinched. Start by aligning the front section first, then gently lower the rear section into place so it seats properly. Once everything is aligned, push the console forward lightly to ensure the clips engage and the console sits flush. Take a moment to verify that all the wiring harnesses are in their original positions and not pinched. This ensures that nothing is trapped and that all connectors remain properly aligned before you continue with the rest of the reassembly. Also, make sure the rear section of the console is fully seated on the floor before moving on. Next, reinstall the bolts under the armrest inside the center console storage compartment. Thread the bolts by hand, then use a 10mm socket to tighten them down. But do not over-tighten, as this could crack the plastic. This will anchor the rear portion of the console firmly in place. Once seated, place the mat back inside the storage compartment. Next, reinstall the 3 screws that secure the top of the center console. 2 screws go at the front under the AC switch panel and the 3rd screw goes at the top center of the console. Next, reinstall the screws on the sides. Next, put the side panels back in place. Start by aligning the rear tab with its mounting slot and sliding it into position. Then firmly press along the front edge of the panel until all the clips snap into place. Make sure the panel sits properly and is flush with the surrounding trim. Now reconnect the wiring harness for the rear console. Align the connector with its port, then push it straight in until you hear or feel a click. Next, reinstall the front console tray. Position it carefully next to the center console, then reconnect all the electrical connectors, making sure each one is fully seated and locked in. Once everything is connected, you can lower the tray back into place. Make sure the tray is properly aligned so that the 3 clips line up with their slots. Push the tray straight in until all the clips snap in place. Once it's seated, reinstall the 2 screws you removed earlier to firmly secure the tray. Now reinstall the center console upper cover. Reconnect its electrical connector first, making sure that it clicks into place. Once the connector is secure, position the cover over the console and gently press it down, ensuring all the clips engage and the panel sits flush with the surrounding trim. Next, reinstall the gear knob. Align it over the gear shifter and push it straight down firmly until the internal clips snap into place. Now reinstall the gear shift boot. Position it over the base of the shifter and align it with the console opening. Press down evenly around the edges so all the clips snap into place. Move the shifter to park position and reconnect the negative terminal of the battery. The reassembly is now complete. Keep in mind that the airbag control unit is not a plug-and-play part. After installation, it requires programming or more specifically ACU variant coding using a compatible OBD scanner. If you found this video helpful, give it a like and subscribe to VJoin for more DIY automotive repair guides. Thanks for watching.